Hello, my name is Mark Adam, and in this video I want to talk to you about saying no. Saying no is a skill. We might not generally think of it as a skill, but it is a skill. Although that said, the definition of skill is something we do well, and many of us don't say no well. We don't say no when we should. We get overextended, we get overbusy, we get overwhelmed, we don't stay true to what we want. So we want to be able to say no when we need to, when we want to, in a good way, in an effective way. Um, Saying no touches all aspects of our life, from our work, how we parent, how we are in relationships with others, and how we interact with the greater society, with the world. So it's very important. And saying no is difficult. So we've all had situations where we have to we get invited to a party we don't want to go to, or for some people more seriously, dealing with unwanted sexual attention, or dealing with pushy bosses. And then they're saying no to children. How do you say no to kids that want more screen time or a treat when they're not going to understand and they're going to get upset? And actually saying no to a lot of adults, not much different than saying no to kids. They're not going to understand and they're going to get upset, and we have to deal with that. And often we don't want to deal with that. So saying no has all these things. And then also on a bigger level, there's also the level of saying no to people, our lovers, our spouses, our wives, our husbands, when we want to go, meet them at their needs and their wants, but it doesn't quite match our own. So that could be a tricky one to navigate for some of us. And then there's no on the political level, where we have to say no, not just to one other person, but say no to a group, say no to authority, say no to a system, or a corporation. That can be tricky. That brings up different issues itself. So saying no is, it touches every aspect of our life. And not only that, but it also touches every part of our inner life. Because saying no is one of the first things we ever learn to say. It's in the top 10, it's in the first 10 words of what we say. No is in there. Right after mommy and daddy is when we learn to say no. So the roots of how we say no, or what we feel about saying no, stem all the way from our childhood. So for some of us, saying no was not safe. It might have got you hit. It might have had somebody withdraw their love or their affection, or not got dessert. You might have been made to feel guilty for saying no. You might have been made to feel that it wasn't nice, that you were selfish. There could be all these things around saying no. And being socially connected is important. So, saying no, we had to watch when we said no. So there's a lot of different aspects to it. Now, and so a lot of us have difficulty saying no. Like I said, we have beliefs around saying no, that saying no is not being nice, or saying no is dangerous. A lot of us don't say no because we're avoiding conflict, and we're not serving ourselves or other people. So no, as it's important. It's something we have to do in a good way. And some people, they've actually erred on the other side. They say no too much. Their general standpoint is a little bit defensive or suspicious. So they say no because they're afraid that saying yes, they're going to get ripped off. They're going to waste their time. They're going to get involved in things they don't want to. So some people say no as a default when they should be saying yes, whether it's just to trying out a new food, or going to a tango lesson, or meeting new people. Their response might be no instead of a yes. So it's good to look at where we are on this side. And there's a lot of different aspects to saying no. And I encourage you, especially to look at the work of Gabor Mate. He has this great exercise of just going over the last week and thinking about all the times you didn't say no when you wanted to, or when you needed to. What was the effect of that? What were the beliefs on it? So I encourage you to check out his work on that. So there's a lot of different things about saying no. And if you go online, especially if you watch other videos, there's a lot of different ideas and advice and scripts and stuff about saying no. And it can be a little bit confusing. It could be confusing or overwhelming to think you got to think through all these different things, like how do I say no in all these different situations, or all this. And what I want to do today from an embodiment perspective, there's a way that actually you can cut through a lot of that noise and make it a lot simpler and a lot more effective. So that doesn't mean that we don't want to think about this and do some inquiry and look at it in a different way. But there's a way that embodiment can actually simplify the process of saying no effectively and skillfully. So the first thing, so I just wanted to give you a few ideas around this. The first is to stay centered. Now, I have other videos talking about centering, so I'm not going to go into it a lot right now. But basically, we want to be calm, grounded, and stable when we say no. If we're nervous, if we're anxious, if we're angry, we're not going to have an effective no. And if we're feeling insecure or we're feeling like imbalanced, we're not our no's not going to have an effective, or it's going to be hard for us to say no. So the first step is being grounded. So as I said, there's other ways to practice that. I'm not going to go into depth right now. But that's the first step. Just staying calm and centered and grounded in ourselves. And going along with this in a way that might help, because often when we're all of a sudden presented with something, hey, we should go do this from friends, it might actually uncenter us. So the first thing to do after being centered is ask for some time. If somebody says something and you're not sure you want to do it, or you're not sure how to say no, just say, thank you for that invitation. I need some time to think about it and check my calendar. Just take some time. So then in the time you have a space to really make a decision. And once you have a real decision, then you know what to do, how to approach the situation. And if it's difficult for you to say no, if you're a people pleaser that finds it very hard to say no to other people, this is a good beginning step, because you're not saying no, you're not rejecting anybody, you're just saying, I'd like some time to think about this. Now that's a reasonable request. So that's something that you can learn to practice, having your boundaries and your assertion. Thank you for your invitation. I need some time to think about that. And here's a thing. People who are going to manipulate you often use time pressure. Salesmen, only 2 left in stock, or special deal today, but it's not going to be gone tomorrow, or other things. If there's any time pressure, it's a way of influencing us. So taking some time out is a good way to not be overly influenced from the outside world. And it might only be for 10 minutes. So you might even just go, oh, I just need to think about it, and just go for a little walk and come back. But it might be a couple of days. Most things don't need us to say yes or no right away. So first off, be centered. Second off, take some time out and pause. Going along with the pause and just in general, what we want to do there is check in with our body. How do we feel about this? If we get clear on what we feel, what we really need or want, then we can be clear on our no and be clear on our yes. So for some of you, checking in with your body is something you do. It's something it's part of your practice, it's part of your life. For others, this might be a little bit strange because you're used to thinking through things. You write a pro column, a con item, you analyze facts and statistics, and it's a very mental process, your decision. So this idea about checking in with the body, just how do I feel about this? That might not be something you're used to doing, but just think about it in this way. Just if you have a decision to make, go, okay, that's the yes. Just notice when you think about that decision, how you feel. Do you tense? Do you tighten? Do you feel anxious? If you think about the other, is there a sense of relief? Is there a sense of calm? Is there a sense of peace, even enjoyment? So it can start with that. Just like go back and forth between your yes and your no. Just notice in your body what sensations arise, what feelings. And if this is tricky, because for some of us, we're not used to tuning into our body in that way, it might be. You can try this. You can try this as a trick. Next time you have a decision, flip a coin. Say heads, yes, tails, no. And the trick is when you get the answer, notice how you feel. So if you said heads, yes, you see heads, and you go, oh, let's do 2 out of 3, or oh, and you don't like the answer, then you know that you feel no, that your body's saying no. If you see the answer and you go, oh yes, okay, that's what I'm doing, then you can know it's more of a yes. So it's something you can just try. It's a little bit fun to try. So we've kind of gone through staying centered helps us, and then taking some time out, checking in with our body, and then now it comes to actually saying no. And again, I'm just going to throw out in this video, it's a short video, I just want to throw out one little thing that you can just do. So right now, hold up your hand, palm out, and say no. No. Notice if this feels familiar or not. Notice if it feels uncomfortable. Notice if you feel embarrassed. Notice if you feel a little bit scared. Notice if you're leaning forward, maybe a bit aggressively. Notice if you're saying no, but you're kind of leaning back. Just notice no. Do you feel grounded and centered in this, or do you feel wobbly? Does it feel uncomfortable? If it feels unfamiliar or uncomfortable, This is something you need to practice. So most of our life, we're not holding out our hand, but it's just a way to, in your body, feel this more directly so that you can play with that feeling of being firm with saying no. So you want to say no. And sometimes we want to be really strong with our no. We need to for our own safety. So how does it feel in the body? And if it feels very uncomfortable, practice this 1 minute a day in front of a mirror saying no until you can do it in a way where you feel confident doing it. And if this is very scary for you, if this feels too forceful or aggressive, put your other hand on your heart and say, I love you and no. I love you and no. And just practice that because you can do both. You can love somebody, you can like the decision, but you still have to say no to them. And that's actually a lot of the times where it's tricky. That's where we're people pleasers because we feel that you can't love and say no at the same time, but you can. And it's your right to do that. So just to sum up the 4 things I said, staying centered helps us be stable. Taking a time out, pause so that we can think about things on our own. Checking with the body, how do we really feel? Saying no, getting used to saying no and staying stable and calm and centered. So these are all things that we can practice. So saying no for some of us will bring up a lot of things. It could bring up things about rejection. It can bring up old wounds. It could bring up hurts. Like I said, the roots to it go way back to our childhood. So there's a lot of, and we might find that we say no easily at work, but not with our children, or vice versa. So there's a lot we can look at, and there's a lot that can come up. So I encourage you to be patient with yourself. Go easy and slow if this is difficult for you. And you might want to dive into a more one-on-one, working with somebody as a way to really explore your issues or your beliefs around this or the feeling around it. And I do workshops where we spend a couple hours really looking at people's beliefs and attitudes that they have, look at ways that they can say no. And we can talk a little bit more about practicing things you can say with it. So that's, if you're interested, there's links below to my website and to other videos around this. So I just want to thank you for taking your time out today to watch this, and I hope it's been helpful, giving you a start of how you can start to work with this. And so thank you. May you live with the courage, strength, and skill you need for your life. All right.